Welcome to Unit 2 of the online modules for co-teaching for administrators for Durham Public Schools. In Unit 2, we're going to talk about teamwork and identify the co-teaching approaches. This is a quick video on teamwork that I'm going to skip for now. You can watch it at a later time in the PowerPoint. Teamwork is an essential part of workplace success, especially in a school and classroom environment. When teachers are working in a co-teaching situation, it is critical that there's teamwork. And each teacher has a specific role to play in accomplishing the task of teaching and of reaching all of the students in the classroom, both the Gen Ed teacher and the EC teacher. And student success is made possible by everyone's planning together, coordination, and cooperation to ensure that learning is taking place. What we need our school administrators to do is look for people who not only work well together, but also who understand that it's going to take everyone in the workplace to accomplish the goals to help the students achieve. Okay, let's move on to the co-teaching approaches. There are 6 co-teaching approaches in which many of you are already familiar with, so this may be a review for some, but it may be brand new to others, while others may be taking their level of understanding just a little bit deeper. The first one we're going to talk about is one teach, one observe, and then we're going to go into one teach, one assist. We're going to show you a video which is kind of a mix of the two, one teach, one observe, and one teach, one assist, and that's sometimes called one teach, one support.
0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. 0 plus 8 is 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14 plus 1 is 1 times 9 is okay. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 9 is 0 plus 7 is 7 plus 1 is 8 plus 3 plus 2 is oh wait, 589. I know add the remainder. Go add the remainder. Okay. Add the remainder plus 28. Now I want you to give a name to your partner's quadrilateral.
So when we talk about one teach, one observe, the definition is to collect data or monitor instruction. They share this role and then they analyze the data together. You use it when you're facing new co-teaching situations, when maybe there are questions about students' need that need to be answered, or maybe you want to compare target students in other classes. The amount of planning time it takes is pretty low. Just a warning, this should be used as a short-term model. And really, within Durham Public Schools, we don't really want to see this going on unless there is an absolute necessity to gather information on a particular student or group of students. Some sample applications might be, if you want to understand better which students are struggling with behavior expectations, or which students are beginning their work on time, which students are lagging behind, or say a specific student, you want to know, does she show organized work habits when she's approaching an assigned task? Does she stay on task without assistance? Those types of things. If you're really trying to collect data on an individual student or a small group of students, then it would be appropriate to use. And we all know that those occasions are very rare. So let's move on to the next co-teaching model, which is one teach, one assist. And that's when one teacher works more in the line of an assistant. You might use it when the lesson lends itself to only one presentation, or if one teacher actually has a specific skill set or a particular expertise is needed. You want to be very careful of this because you don't want to always move to that, oh, well, you're more of an expert in this, or I'm more of an expert in that. You want to be very, very careful with using that language. You might also want to use it when they're first approaching co-teaching, when they're trying to get to know each other's style, and maybe sometimes to closely monitor student work. If there's specific tasks that need to be monitored very closely, you might want to use this approach. Again, planning time is very, very low because you have one person taking on the majority of the workload and the other person is kind of acting more of an assistant. You do not want to use this as the primary approach, and what we've noticed is when we're going around the classrooms, we often see this approach. So we want to be aware that we are taking steps to develop our teachers into using some of the other approaches. Some sample applications. It might be used to understand how well students understand steps in long division. So maybe they're working independently, or one teacher is kind of walking them through the steps, and then the second teacher is walking around to monitor their progress to make sure they're following all of the steps. Or if a teacher just needs to get her feet wet, like in a certain subject area, such as geometry or some of your higher maths. Again, you want to be very, very careful with that teachers aren't spending the entire year to get their feet wet and are quickly jumping on in the deep end. You have to be careful because it may cause a distraction, because ideally each teacher should lead the lesson at some point. So you might have one teacher who's teaching at one point and then one teacher who is assisting, and then that role should change out. But don't let it turn into an assistant and a teacher that's always that case, because sometimes when you walk in classrooms, rather than it looking like, as we stated in Module 1, two professionals who are qualified, highly qualified teachers, rather than it looking like two teachers, it ends up looking like a teacher and a paraprofessional or instructional assistant, which we do not want to do. So the one teach, one assist approach does have some advantages when used in moderation, such as you are providing certain students with immediate assistance and you're able to give immediate feedback to students. However, some disadvantages are that sometimes we over assist our students when they have continuous access to a teacher, and also it just looks like a teacher and an instructional assistant, and you're not getting the full benefit of having two certified teachers teaching side by side in the classroom. So let's move on and let's talk about station teaching. Here's a video. Okay, so you could see the two different teachers that they were both teaching math and numbers and working with manipulatives, but they were working on different activities with different groups of students. You really had a hard time telling which one was the special educator and which one was the general education teacher, as well as which students were students with disabilities and which were non-disabled students. So the definition of station teaching is each station has a specific skill that teachers teach to one group, and then subsequently they're going to repeat the instruction for the next group. So the students are going to rotate through the teachers. It's used when content is complex but not necessarily sequential. Lessons that contain planned instruction as a review, it's good to use it then, and also when several topics make up a specific lesson. It does require some planning time because both teachers have to be fully comfortable with the stations that they're going to be running. They need to be comfortable leading the material, introducing the students to the material, and then remediating that same material. Some sample applications, you might use it in language arts, where one station might focus on recently read literature, and then another station might be on editing a writing assignment, where the students are working student to student, and then the third station might be one with an activity related to the skill being taught. In a social studies class, you'd be using different aspects of one country or region. In math, one teacher might be teaching a new skill, and then another teacher might be reviewing other applications of recently learned skills. So again, none of these are sequential steps. You could go, it would be okay if groups of students went to one teacher before the next and that sort of thing. It doesn't really matter that they go in order of the skills learned. Also keep in mind that you can have students working in groups independently, and you can also utilize peer-to-peer. Like for example, in the language arts where they're doing a peer-to-peer edit. So you could actually have 4 groups running, one that the special education teacher was running, one that the gen ed teacher was running, one their students were using peer-to-peer, and then one where students were working independently. So some advantages of using station teaching is it allows the teachers to divide the content into manageable chunks. It also lowers the student to teacher ratio a significant amount, and it offers opportunity for independent work as well. The disadvantages is, your pacing has to be compatible and make sure that you're giving equal amounts of time to the students who need it. Students have to have the ability to work without direct supervision, which sometimes takes some time. Some people get bothered by the noise level. Other people refer to that as a working buzz, and if a teacher has excellent classroom management strategies, then it should not be a problem. And then another problem sometimes within classrooms is you need plenty of workspace to be able to formulate your groups and that sort of thing and work with groups of students. So those are some things to take into consideration. However, because you are working with smaller groups of students, the impact on instruction could have significant benefits. Let's take a look at a video on parallel teaching.
Do you think she's going to be the speaker for college? No. What? Maybe. Maybe. Okay, so that's what we're going to determine. What else? We need a speaker based on this. There's two lines that have. How does one go? There's a double entry journal. Double entry journal. How do I do?
So the definition of parallel teaching is when you have co-designed instruction that's given to 2 groups by 2 teachers. This definitely lowers the student to teacher ratio because it essentially cuts your class in half. So if you had a class with 30 students, instead of having a 30-to-1 ratio, you would essentially have a 15-to-1 ratio. You might want to use it when you definitely want to lower the student to teacher ratio. It does foster student participation and discussion because there are fewer students in the group. And you may also want to use it when you need drill and practice, reteaching, or review and remediation. It does take some planning time. The amount of planning time is at a medium rate because you really have to determine what you're going to be teaching because you're teaching 2 different groups at the same time, and you want to make sure that you cover the right amount of material so that one group doesn't get further ahead than the next. So some sample applications, again, it does allow for more students to have a chance to share, and it fosters class discussion. So some examples are students might want to share their ending to a story. You might want to have one teacher present the side of Exxon and the other teacher presents the side of the American people. There are plenty of interesting ideas that you could do with parallel teaching. The advantages to parallel teaching are you have closer student supervision because you're lowering that ratio, and again you have more opportunities for students to respond. In addition, some students may just respond to a certain teacher's style of teaching a little bit better than others, and so you may want to even mix things up and allow the students to choose which teacher they go with, or give them some choice in how the groups are made. Some disadvantage is you really have to make sure that both teachers have equal mastery of content knowledge, and we know that sometimes with our special education teachers, that's difficult for them to gain the same amount of content knowledge as their general education peers, especially when they have to teach across multiple subject areas and multiple grade levels. So that's something to take into consideration. Also, timing of lessons, you have to stay on the same pace as others. Be aware of the noise level, and again, you have to have the space to separate into 2 separate groups. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and we're going to cover the next few models in Module 3.